start with unit number 3, that is entrepreneurship development. In this unit, entrepreneurship development, we will be discussing about different entrepreneurial competencies, how to develop these entrepreneurial competencies, then concept of entrepreneurship development, entrepreneurial training and developing, then role of entrepreneur development programs EDP, then role of DIC, SS, SISI, EDII, NISBOD, NEDP, EDP, all these agencies which are helping entrepreneurs, their objectives, their contents, methods and executions, as well as the role of mentors. We'll also discuss the innovation and entrepreneurship, what is design thinking process, the role of different consultancy organizations in promoting entrepreneurs. After that, we'll be discussing about the different problems and difficulties of entrepreneurs, like there are difficulties like marketing, finance, human resource, production, research, external problems, then mobility of entrepreneurs, entrepreneurial change, occupational mobility, factors in mobility, all these we will learn. So before we start, can anybody tell me what is a competency? We'll be starting with the topic entrepreneurial competency. Can you tell me what is a competency? Yogesh? Hello?
Required skill set.
Required skill set. And Simran, you wanted to say something?
No, sir. By mistake. No, sir.
So competency, that means ability to do something effectively, isn't it? If we are able to do something very effectively and efficiently, then we can say that we have that competency. There may be a competency of maybe decision making. So decision making may be a competency which a person can have. So if he has different decision making skills and he is able to take correct decisions effectively and efficiently, then we can say that it is his competency, isn't it? So now we'll be discussing about what is entrepreneurial competency. There may be different competencies which are required for entrepreneur. There may be different abilities a person should have to become an entrepreneur. So what is a entrepreneurial competency? Entrepreneurial competency means these are the key characteristics that should be possessed by successful or budding entrepreneurs. Budding entrepreneur means those who are upcoming entrepreneurs, those who are becoming entrepreneurs, in order to perform entrepreneurial functions effectively. So a person who wishes to become an entrepreneur and to become successful entrepreneur, he should have different key characteristics, very important characteristics he should have, so as to perform all those entrepreneurial functions effectively. We have discussed what are different entrepreneurial functions earlier. So to perform all those entrepreneurial functions effectively and efficiently and to become successful, there are certain key characteristics that are required to be possessed by a person. Also, this entrepreneurial competency can be defined as the characteristics. This can be called as characteristics such as generic and specific. Generic means all those general or common characteristics a person should have, and then specific. Generic means all those general or common characteristics a person should have, in whatever industry he may have. He may be starting his business. He should have some common characteristics. Those are generic characteristics, and then there may be some specific characteristics he should have particular to that industry or business he is into. The specific characteristics may be knowledge of that particular industry, the market for that particular industry, the competitors. So all these generic and specific characteristics, knowledge, motives, traits, self-images, special social roles, and skills that result in venture birth, survival, or growth. All those characteristics can be called as entrepreneurial competencies. Is it understood? Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So, entrepreneurial competencies, as we have discussed, these are the skills. These are the skills required to an entrepreneur to venture into an enterprise, to start an enterprise, organize and manage an enterprise ably and competently, efficiently, and realize the goal for which the enterprise is established. So all these skills which we are discussing, the entrepreneurial competencies, these are the skills which are very important and necessary for an entrepreneur so as to start an enterprise, to organize and manage the enterprise effectively, and then realize, that means achieve all the goals which he has set for that particular enterprise. So these competencies will help entrepreneur to successfully venture into an enterprise. So all these uh, competencies, if a person has, it can help him to start an enterprise and to become a successful entrepreneur. We'll now discuss about the different competencies an entrepreneur should have. What are all those competencies? So entrepreneur specifically should have different characteristics which are necessary for him to become a successful entrepreneur. These entrepreneurial competencies can be classified into three important categories. First is behavioral competencies. Second is enterprise launching competencies. Third is enterprise managing competencies. So first of all, these behavioral competencies. Behavioral competency means those related to behavior. He should have certain behavior and he should have certain abilities which can be reflected through his behavior so that he can become an entrepreneur. A successful entrepreneur have a specific behavior. So that behavioral competencies are the first category. Then second is enterprise launching competencies. So while launching or starting any enterprise, what are the different competencies or abilities which are required? Those are called enterprise launching competencies. And third is your enterprise managing competencies. Once that enterprise is started, to manage that enterprise successfully, effectively, and efficiently, there are certain competencies which are required. Those are called as enterprise managing competencies. So we'll see all these competencies one by one. First is our behavioral competencies. So what the behavior of entrepreneur should reflect? What are the abilities should be reflected through the behavior of an entrepreneur? How the behavior of an entrepreneur should be? So these are different behavioral competencies which we'll discuss one by one. Behavioral competencies include, first of all, initiative. Taking the initiative. That is the first characteristic or competency under behavioral competency. The behavior of an entrepreneur should reflect initiative, taking initiative in any of the thing, taking initiative in doing any innovation, taking initiative in starting the enterprise, taking initiative in managing the things. So initiative, taking initiative on his own, That is the first characteristic, taking the initiative. Second is systematic planning. So the entrepreneur should have this ability to have systematic planning of whatever he has planned. So if he wants to start an enterprise, he should have a systematic planning about what he wants to start, what innovation he wants to bring in to the present product or service, how he will go about it, what will be the first step. So likely he should have a systematic plan of whatever he is doing. So he should be systematic at doing a proper planning for his all activities. Third is creativity and innovation. So he should have this attitude of creativity and innovation. He should observe the different things happening around. He should understand how and think about how creatively that things can be changed, what innovation can be brought in to different products, services, or the different methodologies of doing the business. Then another competency is risk taking. So the entrepreneur or the person who wants to become an entrepreneur should have this ability to take the risk and managing the risk. So we have discussed many times that this is one of the important characteristic of entrepreneur, taking the risk, and whatever rewards, maybe profit or the achievement of his objectives, are the reward of his risk taking. So risk taking is very important, and entrepreneur should be able to take a calculated risk. It should not be thoughtless risk taking. It should be thoughtful and calculative risk taking. Then he should have capability of problem solving. He should have this problem solving approach. So a person who wants to become an entrepreneur, he should see a solution to every problem. He should see opportunity in any problem. So he should be thinking how that problem can be solved. Whatever may be the problems, maybe in managing the daily business activities of the firm, or maybe the different social problems. So he should see the problems differently. He should see opportunities into the problem, and he should have that orientation of solving the problem. Then he should have persistence. So persistence means remaining determined to his objectives or to his motives. Whatever difficulties comes, whatever failures comes, he should be determined to work upon all those uh, goals again and again, so as to achieve those goals. Then quality performance. So he should see quality in all his activities. He should perform all those activities which he is doing. He should think like how he can do all these things or all these activities or whatever he is offering qualitatively, so as to create value to the customers as well as the society. Then information management. He should be able to manage the information. He should be able to understand which information is important for his particular business or particular activities. He should be able to get the information. He should be able to manage the information and make use of that information for productive purposes. Then persuasion and influencing abilities. So he should have persuasion and influencing ability. He should be able to influence the others. He should be able to convince others in terms of whatever he is doing and whatever products or services he is offering. He should be able to convince others that whatever he is offering is something new and is providing value to the society. So all these are the behavioral competencies a person should have to become a successful entrepreneur. These are the different qualities which will be reflected through the behavior of a person, which can make the person start a particular enterprise and to become successful in launching that enterprise and managing that particular enterprise. Is there any query till now?
No, sir. No, sir.
Then we'll move ahead. In entrepreneurial competencies, the second competency which an entrepreneur or a person should have to become an entrepreneur is enterprise launching competencies. So to start an enterprise, these abilities are required. So these abilities should be possessed by a person while he is launching any enterprise. He should have these abilities. The first ability he should have is competency to understand the nature of the business. So he should be able to understand the nature of the business, what type of business he is into, what are the type of business activities in that particular business, what type of transactions will happen in that business, what are the type of markets are there in that particular business. So how that business is to be carried out and how that can be planned so as to be based on the nature of that particular business, that ability he should have to understand the nature of the business. Second competency is to determine potential as an entrepreneur. So the person, he should have competency to determine his own potential as an entrepreneur. So he should be able to understand his own strengths and weaknesses, and he should understand how he can make the use of his strengths so that he can reach his own potential. Third is competency to develop a business plan. So the person who wants to become an entrepreneur, he should have this ability to develop a business plan. So what all elements are there in the business plan and how that business plan can be prepared, what are all the steps in that preparing of that business plan, how that business plan can be organized. So the person should have this type of ability to develop a business plan. So if a person or an entrepreneur has a good business plan, then only there are probabilities that he can succeed. Then competency to obtain technical assistance. For any business, technical assistance will be required. So first of all, that person should have a knowledge or understanding of what type of technical assistance will be required for his particular business, and from whom that technical assistant can be obtained, from which agencies, from which consultants that technical assistance can be obtained. That ability he should have. In enterprise launching competencies, the next competency is to choose the type of ownership. So the entrepreneur should be able to choose the type of ownership. He should know what are the different types of ownerships, and by understanding all those advantages and disadvantages, what type of ownership is suitable for his particular business and to the person himself, that ability to understand this type of ownership he should have. Then competency to plan marketing strategy. So to run a business successfully, he should know how he can market his products or services. What is the type of market? What are the type of different customers? What are their requirements? Who all are the current competitors? What are all their strengths and weaknesses? And based on understanding of all these, what marketing strategies should be planned so as to become successful? That abilities of planning the marketing strategies that person should have. Then competency to locate the business. So where to locate the business? Where should be the appropriate location of the business so that he can approach the customers easily, in terms of the availability of the product, in terms of reachability, access to the customers. What should be the appropriate location of that particular business? He should be able to make an assessment of particular location, suitable location for the particular business. He should understand what type of business he is in, and what type of location characteristics or what locational requirements are there for his particular business, and then what should be the ideal location for his business. So doing all this, he should have this kind of ability to locate the business. Then competency to finance the business. So competency to finance the business, to raise the capital which is required for the business. First of all, he should make an analysis of how much capital or how much finance will be required for starting his business, for starting his enterprise, for what all purposes that finance will be required, and then understanding appropriately how much finance will be required. Then he should understand which are different sources from where he can get the finance, he can raise the capital, which are the appropriate sources from where he can get the loan or he can raise the capital. The next competency is to competency to comply with government regulations. So for any business, there may be different government regulations. Maybe somewhere there may be more regulations. Some businesses may be less regulations. So for particular business, what type of regulations are there? Which all compliances he should do? He should have the understanding of all these government regulations and compliances. He should be able to do for his particular business. Then is enterprise managing competencies. So once any enterprise is in place, when he starts his enterprise, then managing the business or managing that enterprise is very important, and therefore he should have particular competencies to manage the enterprise. So enterprise managing competencies. The enterprise managing competencies may be teamwork. So the entrepreneur should be able to work in a team. He should be able to understand the different members of the team, the different strengths and weaknesses of the members of the team, and how creatively he can make use of the strengths of different members of the team for the betterment of the performance. He should be able to understand, and also he should be able to understand how he can reduce the weaknesses of the team members, how these weaknesses can be turned into the strengths, and collectively how the team can perform so as to achieve the objectives of an organization. That he should be able to understand, that competencies he should have. He should have the competency of motivating the team. He should be able to have that competency of training, motivation of the team, and making the team perform better so as to achieve the organizational objectives. Then an entrepreneur, while managing the enterprise, he should have the competency of planning and organizing. So he should be able to plan the different activities, the different aspects of the particular business. He should understand what all different aspects are there, how they are interconnected to each other, and how those can be organized in a proper way so as to collectively increase the productivity of the particular firm or particular business. That he should be able to understand and analyze. Third is networking. So he should be able to network with the people. For any business, networking ability or competency of networking is very, very important. So while an entrepreneur is doing a business, he should be able to network, get connected with the people, There may be different suppliers of raw material. There may be different consultants. There may be other firms. There may be different mentors, different uh, these business incubators. Then there may be middlemen. There may be customers. We should be able to have a connectivity or connect, able to get connected with all those networks which are very important for his business. So networking is the also one of the important ability for success of a business. And then the managing the enterprise also required problem solving and decision making ability an entrepreneur should have. So as we already discussed, the entrepreneur should have problem solving abilities. He should see the problems as opportunities and how this problem can be solved, how this problem can be turned into an opportunities, that he should be able to do. And then decision making, while making a decision, how he makes a decision, that ability of making a optimum decision, that is important for an entrepreneur. While managing any business is always working under uncertainty. There are different uncertainties in the business. The environment of the business is always complex. There are different changes are always going on in the external as well as internal environment of the business. And in that all uncertainties and complexities, that entrepreneur should have the ability of problem solving and making a decisions. So all these are the different competencies of an entrepreneur which are important for a person to become an entrepreneur and to become successful. Is it clear till now?
Yes,
Any
sir.
query? Any query?
No. No, sir.
Okay. So we'll go ahead. Developing entrepreneurial competencies. So a person can develop this entrepreneurial competencies. This entrepreneurial competencies can be developed as we discuss. As we understand that competency results in superior performance. Whatever competencies we have discussed, whatever required competencies for an entrepreneur, if the entrepreneur has that all those competencies, it can result into superior performance. So why competencies are required? Competencies can result into superior performance, superior productivity, superior output, and ultimately the achievement of objectives. So competency is very important for an entrepreneur to have. And these competencies can be exhibited or can be displayed by one's distinct behavior in different situations. So if a person has those competencies or not, that can be reflected through the person's behavior in different situations. There may be a situation where there is a particular problem, and how that entrepreneur or the person takes a decision in that particular complex situation, that can reflect the competency of that person in that particular situation, whether he has that ability of decision making or not. This McClelland and Winter, they have carried out research in 1969, and they have proved that entrepreneurial competencies can be developed. Entrepreneurial competencies can be injected and developed in human minds through proper education and training. So these scientists, McClelland and Winter, they have proved through the experimentation that entrepreneurial competencies can be developed. If a person doesn't have any competency, he can develop that competency through proper education as well as proper training if it is provided to that person. How that entrepreneurial competency can be developed? So there is certain way of developing that particular competencies. How that competencies can be developed? There is a process, there can be proper education and training, there are different methods. So there are the different steps in how that skills or competencies can be developed. The first step in how we can develop an entrepreneurial competency, the first step is competency identification and recognition. So first of all, we have to identify and recognize the competencies. So if a person wants to become an entrepreneur, he should understand and identify what are all the different competencies which are required for becoming an entrepreneur. What are the different sets of competencies which are required for effectively behaving like an entrepreneur? If I want to become an successful entrepreneur, what are the different qualities or what are the different competencies which are required to become an entrepreneur? That identification and recognition is the first step. So that identification and recognition of that entrepreneurial competencies can be done through observation, through going through different success story of different entrepreneurs. So we can understand all those qualities or all those competencies a person should have to become an effective entrepreneur. So this is the first step, competency identification and recognition. The second step is self-assessment, assessment of the self. So once a person has identified that what are all the different skill sets or what are the different competencies which are required for a person to become a successful entrepreneur, he should make an assessment of himself regarding whether do I have that all those competencies or not. So whether one have that particular competencies or not, that need to be assessed, which competencies I have and which competence I do not have. So self assessment or introspection of what all competencies are there and which competence I have, which competence I do not have, that can be ascertained or assessed by posing and answering relevant questions to competence. So related to different competencies, the person should ask himself whether he has those particular competency sets or not. So that is a self-assessment, which competencies I have and which competencies I do not have. So that assessment need to be done so that the person can come to know which are all the competencies which I do not have, which are the competencies which I will have to develop, which competencies I already have that I can strengthen, and which are all the competencies I do not have that I will have to develop. That can be understood at this step number 2, that is self-assessment. Then the third step is competency application. So applying the competency, making the application of the competency, that is important. So whatever I have identified that few competencies which I do not have. So to develop those competencies, what I need to do is I will have to practice all those competencies on continuous basis in different activities. Whatever competencies like problem solving, managing the teams, all those competencies which I want to develop, or leadership competency. So whatever competencies which I feel that I want to develop, I will have to practice it on the continuous basis in different activities. Whatever the person is doing, in whatever all the activities, he should try to apply all those competencies and he should try to practice all those competencies on regular basis so that practice can make him perfect. A new behavior as a part of one's personality can be developed by having a practice. By practicing that particular skill or competency again and again, the person can develop a particular competency. And to make it as a part of one's personality, particular behavior or competency need to be applied frequently, even in the simplest activities that performed in one's day-to-day life. So in whatever a person is doing in all his different activities, to make the particular competencies as a part of his personality or as a perfect competency, or we can say as a part of his behavior. If he wants to make that competencies, what he should do is he should regularly practice all those competencies in day-to-day life on regular basis, so as to have a perfection or have a practice of all those competencies, and then he can develop all those competencies in himself, which can be reflected through his behavior and his personality. Then the fourth step in developing that entrepreneurial competency is having a feedback. So this feedback is his own feedback to himself. So after understanding, internalizing and practicing of all those competencies, he should introspect. Introspect means he should look inside, look within, look towards himself, make an analysis of himself related to whether he has acquired that competency or not, whether is he able to do the activities which are related to that particular competency, whether he is able to do that effectively and efficiently or not. So after understanding, internalizing and practicing, he should be able to introspect. That is the feedback, his own feedback to himself. In taking this feedback for himself related to all his competencies and skills which he has newly acquired, he should understand what are the different strengths and weaknesses of his new behavior. Whatever new behavior he is able to display or able to reflect, what are the different strengths and weaknesses of this behavior, how it can help him to manage the particular business or manage the particular startup effectively. This feedback can also help himself to know how that new behavior has been rewarding, whether the new skill or new competency which he has acquired, whether it is rewarding to him, how it is affecting to him, what rewards he is getting through this new behavior, so that he should be able to analyze, introspect, and then enable this feedback can also enable the entrepreneur or the person to sustain and give up the exhibition of a particular behavior or competencies in the future life. So based on his introspection, once he has understood which behavior or which competencies that he has developed is rewarding, that he can continue, and those behaviors or competencies which he has developed, if he feel that all those competencies are not rewarding, so he can give up those type of behaviors or those type of competencies. So that is a feedback of the person for himself to understand whether he has developed all those entrepreneurial competencies or not. So in short, entrepreneurial competencies can be developed. These scientists McClelland and Winter has proved that these entrepreneurial competencies can be developed through proper training and education, and these are the different steps which we have discussed that can be helpful for a person to develop particular competencies. The steps may be first step is identification of competency, second is self-assessment, then competency application, and fourth is feedback. So these are all the steps for development of an entrepreneurial competency. Do you have any query till what we have discussed?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. So if there are no queries, what we'll do is we will stop here only and we'll meet in the next